So this video is mostly about me tinkering about trying to learn PMF, Poor Mans Fibreglass. So I tried geo fabric, which I don't have handy. Then I tried hessian, and finally I went on to cotton. So I know hessian's kind of very open is its drawback. Cotton's very closed, but it's also very light, which worries me. Anyway, let's see how this little adventure unfolds, shall we? G'day folks, Andy here from McDowell Manor. Foamie trick for young players too. Take the bloody foil off when the damn thing's on the ground, because it's 10 times quicker and easier. Trying to do it when it's on, you can see, turns into a bit of a debacle. I mean, the control and ease of tearing is just so much better. Now, I wouldn't have believed this, but the foils on both sides actually provide a lot of rigidity for the board. Now, that might sound like a good thing, but see how that's bending around the ladder? One of the problems I had was I couldn't actually manage to do that when I'd left the foil on. So that's really handy, and again, take the foil off before you start using it. So I've done about as much of the outside as I can. I'm still removing a bit of foil. You can see some up under that ledge there, the window sill or whatever you want to call it. I've cleaned all the foil off right way around this cupboard. And there was no foil, of course, on that wood battery shelf. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start teaching myself how to do PMF on this cupboard. And I'm just going to cover the whole outside with it. That should stiffen it up. And then I'll do that to that as well if all goes well. Wish me luck, folks. A virgin PMFer about to go in. The fabric I'm going to use, it's geotextile or landscaping fabric. It's a knitted one, not a woven one. Now it certainly feels like it's going to take glue. So hopefully, well, like I say, I'm only going to have a test run. So if it does filtration, that means it's it'll let the water in, which is making me fairly hopeful this should be okay. And it was certainly cheap. So I've actually nailed it along the edge there. That'll let me stretch it once I get the glue completely covering the top. Geez, it uses some glue, I'll tell you, that's been a surprise. I'm actually thinking that Geotex is just not working. It's barely sticking, which is bizarre. So that might be a flop, but I still think the overall, I'll wait until it dries, you never know your luck in the big city. I'm pretty confident the overall strategy is a bloody good one. I'm not going to get too depressed yet. I'm using far too much glue, but I think, like I say, that's the fabric. A couple of observations for you. It's messy as all get out. Thank God I put that drop sheet down. Uses a heck of a lot of expensive glue, so I'm actually thinking if this dries reasonably okay, I'll start and maybe go to paint. But the other thing that has dawned on me well and truly, despite trying to staple, it just tends to pull out, because of course I'm only stapling mostly into foam, and that's the advantage of the guys who put the thin ply over everything, because it staples to the ply quite well. Okay. So next day, I've gotten over my mass depression, thinking it completely didn't work. It did work. It's still a stupid way to do it, so I'll fix this up. You can see me cutting away spare. I'll glue all this down, fix up underneath, and then I'll paint that one, and Bob's your uncle. So that cloth is far too thick. Soaks up far too much. That shelf I'm going to test the hessian on. Alright, so we're back in business, folks. So as I said, that feels like it should. and then it'll get layers of paint, so it should be okay. Now it hasn't tacked down properly, so what I'm thinking I'm going to do this time is I've swapped over to Hessian instead of that white geo fabric, which in my opinion is too good for the job. We'll go to this Hessian. I'm going to use Tight Bond 2 full strength on the base here, but my paintbrush is still quite wet. Well, you can't really see that, but trust me, it is. And I'm hoping I'll wait till that tacks a bit. It should look tacky or feel tacky, and then I'll put the canvas on. And I'll worry about trimming the crap off the end. I've allowed a bit of extra measurement, so I should be able to leave that hanging, and then I should just be able to cut up to where it's gone solid. That's the theory. Wish me luck, eh? Maybe my version should be called effing PMFing, but that's another story. Shh. So keeping the paintbrush nice and wet seemed to help, like water wet. Help spread the glue, and I'm about to put the first coat over top, and I will break that down, so about 1/3 water and the rest glue. So I can already see this is just going on so much better than the other one. As you can see, it's an open weave, so it's soaking straight through and on. It's getting sucked up by the thread as well. Much better. Okay, this is making a lot more sense now. The edges are taped down. I've only added 1 coat of the glue yet. I might actually let it dry, and then I'll put the second coat on. Definitely a vastly superior cloth for doing this sort of stuff. Well, live and learn. Here's what it sounds like when I tap on the inside of a foam board that has no PMF. And here's the top one up here. Completely different sound, isn't it? So, quite hopeful about that. Yeah, definitely. That one sounds hollow and that one doesn't. Well, let's see how this goes. Now that I'm doing it what I would call a lot more properly, things toughened up, especially along the front here. I've just stapled down the back, and then I'll just PMF that as well. And same up the side. I think that's a bit beyond repair, but it's well and truly stuck because it's on both the foam and the wood. You can see I've stapled down the front. That will allow me to fix all this. Same up the sides here. I'll just have to do something with that. I might tape that because that wasn't going too well with staples, as you can see. Stapling up the underside of the Hessian to hold that in place so I can PMF that too. The top of this Hessian is so impressive. Okay, so I added a bit of extra fiberglass up the wall, and then down onto there. I just want to make sure it sticks. And it's got plenty of strength, if you know what I mean, because that one shelf is going to hold my battery box. So I'm certainly getting better at it now. I just staple gunned up along the top edge a little bit, and then everything, as the wet glue went on, it just went bloody perfectly, so that's good. Getting a lot more confident about the outside with this approach than with this approach. So I've actually gone back and stapled the guts out of it to get it onto the bottom of the cupboard, and I'm just going to keep hitting that with glue and water until I'm pretty confident. See, that's not bad. So this is that back cupboard. Remember, I was a bit worried that the underneath hadn't bonded properly, and I can see it hasn't. Like, I can still look at that, but some parts have, so I'm not going to take it off. But you can see what I decided to do was just come the other way. And I got to say to you, just quietly, I've become a bloody Hessian professional. There's hardly a mark in it, which is pretty amazing when you see how it starts, because it's all bloody bumpy and oh geez. No worries, look, held half onto the back wall, the entire shelf wraps over. Not going to do this one because A, it's too small, and B, it's actually a bit that took pretty well, so that's good. And I'm going to do that entire shelf. So you can see how it starts, can't you? So what I've been taking to doing is stapling into a few points where I really need it to hold well, and then just relying pretty much on the glue and the water to stick it. And it's working really well. I mean, this has got to have another coat yet, but yeah, very impressed. I've also decided to strengthen this shelf up by running down the wall and across. You can see where the joint is. Working a treat, and let me give it I'll give it a tap with a screwdriver so you can hear it. So here we go. Good as gold, I reckon. And I haven't painted yet. So a couple of coats of paint, and that should really be tough as. So I've taken, hopefully you can see that runny bottom corner there? That's water. And I've found, rather than try and mix proportionally, if I just have a little bit across the top, that keeps it flowing in nicely. So I also bought some 100% cotton. That's the lighter one. It seems to go on pretty well too. In fact, I think it's going to be the most successful. But we'll see. Quite hopeful about that. You know, it's still the same deal. You've got to sort of try and get it as best you can on the bottom with staples. But yeah, so that's coat one. You can see I use quite a lot of glue, so that'll dry and we'll see how that goes, and then I'll give it a proper second coat tomorrow. I'm about to put the second coat on this shelf. A lot more waterproof than I thought originally it was gonna be. It's far from perfect, but like I say, a couple more coats and we'll see. I think regardless, I'll go over to the cotton. Really is a lot. It's as easy to work with as the open weave hessian, but the advantage is you've got a much tighter weave, and I think you'll find that'll waterproof much, much better. The cotton seems to also work extremely well. That's got to have a third coat yet. I forgot to prep it, unfortunately, with the primer, but I think that'll be okay. This is really a test run for the roof. Now here's the hessian. So what I'm going to do is test it. And the way I'm going to test it is to put this heavy big battery box on said shelf and see what the heck happens. Alright, wish me luck, I'm going in. Guess what? Who'd have thunk it? That battery box is heavy. It's lithium, so it's a lot lighter than the old one, but I can't pick it up one-handed. It's certainly a two-hand job. That shelf's not even sagging. So obviously I kept it up this end near the structural supports as much as possible. That's just a sensible precaution. But wow. And that's with the hessian. The linen, which, remember, my only concern is, can I in fact get it waterproof enough? Otherwise it's a very good cheap option. Linen. The cloth, the cotton cloth, we're still got another coat, and I'll hit it with something. It's a bit of a significant bang, and we'll see what happens, shall we? How good is that? Wow. So that's the cotton with a couple of, it was a couple of layers of paint. I forgot to seal it. I think it's okay. Let's try a bit pour a bit of water on it and see what happens, shall we? Well, I'm not sure if you can see, but that's pooled nicely. So I'm going to let it sit there for a little minute. See if we can get you a better angle. There you go. And what we'll do is we'll pour that off in a minute and see if it looks like there's evidence that it's soaked in. All right. I don't think it's soaked in one iota. There it all is down there. It certainly just brushed off. I mean, it feels wet, But of course it does. So what if I hit it with a bit of rag? Those lumps and bumps are already there. There's something, there's hard under them, so that'll be glue or something. No, I think I'm going to deem this an absolute waterproofing success. Slightly, I can detect a slightly different colour, but it certainly doesn't feel like it's soaked in. I reckon it's going to work. Woohoo! Now I might even also, while I'm in the mood and I've got you here, let's try the Hessian and see if that worked. So it was sealed, and then 3 layers of paint. Look at that. That's bloody waterproof as well, I reckon. Wow. It would appear to me that both methods have turned out successful. I'll be damned. I was a bit worried about the Hessian, but it looks like it works. So that's, to my mind, tell me that's not waterproof, it's just running straight off. Look at that, that's gold. It looks like both works, but the concept clearly is a hit, it's a success. Wow. I suspect that geofabric's probably waterproof as well, just inefficient. And this went on so easily. What a ripper. So here we are, beginning the fiberglassing process of the roof. Looks like so far so good. Well, that's the first panel on the roof. Certainly covers up a lot of sins, doesn't it? That's great. So there's the final roof pretty much, bearing in mind the sides come back over and wrap over the edge of that. That's why I haven't been worried too much about the edges. You can see she's got a few ruffles. Now mostly, believe it or not, that was where I've sprayed foam underneath, because I was worried there was slight gaps and stuff, so I was making sure they were filled. So she's now had 2 coats of prep and primer, and 4 coats of paint. So hopefully that'll do the trick. I'm presuming our next video will be the final reveal. Wow.